Stellaris, spies and how you can use them, or as they call it, Dev Diary 197, Operations and Assets. This Dev Diary will be about operations, operation types, examples of operations, and as you can see it's a lot, and it's about assets. Assets are used to increase your mode of operations, and operations are used to produce a result that might affect your empire or that might affect the other empire. What is an operation? An operation is basically based on a system that runs like the archaeology system. When operations complete the objectives necessary to complete their mission, they usually do not require our intervention unless something important has come up. So you get little events if something important comes up. Otherwise, they'll just finish it. When starting the operation, you have the option of assigning a single asset to the mission. These assets you will gain through infiltrating the other empire and just gain an access point, gain someone. So operations have an energy credit cost to initiate as well as energy upkeep while ongoing. Most operations pause for your final approval before they initiate their final step, but your operatives can be given permission to launch as soon as it's ready in the UI. There are also covered missions. They are a little tricky and sometimes things are a little unpredictable. If problems arise during the mission, the Spy Master may contact you seeking guidance. You can provide them then with additional resources or have a larger portion of the spy network dedicated to the mission, assuming you have that available, or you can scrap the mission and leave the asset assigned to the mission out to dry. Likewise, even when things go according to plan, sometimes your operatives have to take what they can get, and this is one of the events that comes up there, while other times they may stumble upon far more than they expected. For example, this mistaken for food, a primal aspect of the Albanian hive entity, has mistaken our own operative drones for food and is now fixated upon hunting them. So this particular Albanian drone seems to instinctively regard anything other than itself as a source of potential nutrition. So they got eaten up. Yes, you can run operations within a hive. So completing the operations has an impact on your infiltration level. Some resources get compromised or otherwise unusable, and depending on the operation you performed, a hornet's nest of security may have been stirred. If you had an asset assigned to the operation, you'll often be given a chance to use them as a scapegoat, burning them to protect the rest of the network. Otherwise, you might take the blame for this. So you lose the assets or you lose diplomacy points, so to say. Let's talk about the operation types. What operations are there to perform? There are 4 different categories: subterfuge, sabotage, manipulation, and provocations. Subterfuge are common operations that work to improve the state of the network or do good old-fashioned spying on the target empire. This means gathering information, acquiring an asset, stealing technology. Stealing technology is very useful. We'll come later to stealing technology. It's very, very nice. Sabotage operations are dedicated to the destruction of tangible or intangible things. For example, sabotage starbase and diplomatic incidents are examples of planned sabotage operations. So there are more sabotage operations planned. Then there are manipulation operations to twist the truth, replace it with better alternative truths that serve your empire's needs. For example, a smear campaign and extort favors are examples of planned manipulation operations. The smear campaign in particular is brilliant. We'll look into that later. Provocations are the most extreme operations that are guaranteed to have blowback. These tend to be relatively difficult to pull off, but have major results. Armed privateers is an example of a provocation. So now that we had the operation types and some examples given, we'll go deeper into these examples of operations. For example, gather information is one of the simplest operations, requiring an infiltration of 20 or higher to initiate. That's not very high. Standard is you can reach 50 or something. Your spy master will send their operatives out to well covertly gather information, for example on technology or diplomacy or something like that. After a relatively short period of time, the spy master will deliver a dossier containing the intelligence to you, which might grant a bonus to current intel level or provide an intel report granting increased intel on a category for the time period. It will decay, of course. It's not the most glamorous of missions, but they should rarely backfire in a spectacular manner. Since Intel decays slowly, currently set to 1 point per year, the Gather Information operation provides a fairly consistent way to learn more about the galaxy. Assigning an asset to the mission will skew the results towards the asset's interests, significantly increasing the chance of getting an intel report targeting the Empire's government, diplomacy, military, economy, or technology. So these assets increase for a specific spectrum, they increase the result. Yeah. We have something here. As you can see here, there's some spy points. Target 999. Yeah, gather information. Our operatives will compile information on their target, delivering an intelligence report when complete. Seems to be very hard here. The breakthrough chance is -80%. Difficulty is 5. Assigning an asset to this operation may skew the results towards their interests. So you might not find a neutral report, but something specialized. And in essence, that's what you would prefer, right? But you have to know what the asset is too, so I'm curious if there are more traits for these assets. And you get different results. Operations do not always produce the same results. There's a certain randomness involved, and of course the factors for producing stuff change. So in that case, Protect Matrix gets 10 intel on the Albanian Hive, or in the other case, gets high technology intel on Great Rocky Road Autocracy for 360 days. Different results are the spice of life, the spice of spies. And with that high technology, we come to steal technology. Is another one that has created a stir on the forums. Understandably, stealing technologies is basically something that you always want to do if you can. It's the weapon of the underdog. Through a variety of means, your agents will attempt to gain access to the research databases of the target. Depending on how things go, several outcomes could occur. They might be able to get some hints as to how a technology works, granting it as a research option and providing some progress. They may be able to leave a backdoor, increasing your Empire's research speed for a time, or if things get messy, they could just destroy whatever research they can, inflicting penalties on the target. Your operatives can only take research that your Empire has the hope of understanding. So you must meet all appropriate prerequisites. This leads to an interesting situation where you ideally want to be spying on an empire of greater technological prowess than your own, but that in itself is riskier, since they may have a better chance of catching your operatives because of their higher technology. And that's so interesting because it mimics real life absolutely. We have an example here. Inscrutable technology. Spymaster Sophont has submitted a report on the Operation Steal technology inside the Albanian Hive. Albanian science and engineering have advanced to the point of bamboozling our expert operatives. They claim that the underlying technology has deviated greatly from our own, meaning that even if we could somehow steal their research, the resulting hardware would be incompatible with ours. Spymaster Sophont suggests that we appropriate such secrets elsewhere. And what is that the result of the inscrutable technology? It's the result of the enigmatic and engineering ascension probe. Finally, it will be useful. Before, it was mostly useful for multiplayer or for AI empires that you wanted to be very, very strong. But it also makes your technology impossible for other empires to reverse engineer. So it's even more important for multiplayer, you could say, but it's also important for single player now. The spying empire will not know this, however, until they try, and that's cool because they'll waste some resources to find that out. It also adds encryption +2. Our technology and engineering is too arcane for others to reverse engineer, so the steal technology operation will automatically fail when used against our empire. So there's an immunity to be gained there. It's very good. I don't know for single player, but for multiplayer, it's extremely powerful. That's the thing when it comes in. It's already good, but this is woo. The smear campaign. manipulation and diplomacy, as you can see here. It's dedicated to working against the relationship two empires may have. After the first chapter completes, you'll have the choice of which relationship you wish your operatives to attempt to diminish. Later, your agents will inform you of the tactics they want to use, with different schemes proposed based on the nature of the selected empires. In this example, I'm trying to create rifts within a nearby federation by running smear campaigns. So finally, the federations are no longer set in stone. Like, you always wondered, there were these strange federations, a fanatic xenophile with a fanatic xenophobe, and they would never split apart. Now you can make them break. Of course, for the better of all of them. Example this, the dirty dossier. We will paint the freed gel state as jealous and greedy neighbors, keen to exploit and abuse Strakporan science. Credible rumors of a plot to outright steal their technology should serve us well in this goal. Which also means if you have a federation running, you must be very wary to have good spy defense to stop other people from ruining your federation or your defensive pact. Finally, my agents have informed me that they are ready to unleash misinformation upon an unsuspecting foe. And that adds even more twists into multiplayer. You'll see later why. Ready to proceed. Our operations are ready to deliver damning news about the free-to-jail state to the Strakpor Confederated Domains. We've done all we can to ensure the fidelity of this misinformation and to keep it from being traced back to us. And the result of this ingenious thing is the gel smear campaign. Our operatives have fabricated evidence that the free-to-jail state are guilty of espionage against the Strakpor Confederated Domains. We shall see how they respond to such a politically damaging allegation. And what does Strakpor get from that? And there comes the multiplayer thing in. And of course, it's absolutely fantastic. Hostile infiltration detected. They get that. There's not just a modifier for that, but it's also a choice. And this thing looks like they actually would detect the free-to-jail state performing that operation on them. So it's the absolute same screen as if the Federation member had spied malignantly against that other empire. And that makes it so cool. As you can see here, we've managed to decrypt various materials they were carrying, however none lays out the full scope of their plans against us, nor are we able to say with certainty what their next move may be. A scheme which would have cost many Strakporan lives and caused us significant damage. We must carefully consider how to respond, and then you get a choice. We may wish to keep quiet about our own counter-espionage capabilities, feigning ignorance in front of our other galactic neighbors. We would, however, also be justified in publicly denouncing this planned act of violence against. So, ultimately, the choice is up to you, or the choice might be up to your ally, and that could be dangerous, especially if you're playing single player. Woo, you must look that you are not getting infiltrated. My goodness me, since their counter-espionage measures did not detect our shenanigans, it seems that our agents chose to kick things up a notch and add sabotage of research facilities to the false charges. They've caught wind of our false flag operation, as if they had actually uncovered an operation being performed by their so-called ally. Crazy, eh? I think that's such a fantastic thing. It plays into so much psychology. That spy thing. This aspect especially is like a psychological board games that you have sometimes. Then finally we come to assets. Assets have been mentioned enough, a few times. Acquire asset for subterfuge government is the most consistent way to gain them. It's possible to gain assets through random events though, during other operations, but tempting them into our service is more reliable. Each asset has two categories they excel at. One of each from subterfuge, sabotage or manipulation, and government, diplomacy, military, economy or technology. So first, which kind of operation you can perform, and then which aspect of your opponent will be manipulated or exploited by them. When an operation is initiated, you gain the asset to be part of it, and for each category that matches, the asset will make completing the mission easier. Assets in regular empires are generally everyday people. A disgruntled bureaucrat, an ambitious criminal underling, or a sympathetic pop icon. In Gestalt empires, they may be deviant drones that your operatives have found a way to utilize to their advantage, or they might be objects that they've taken control of, a damaged pheromone emitter, a deviant labor drone, a hacked coordination system, or a virus introduced into an engagement protocol. You can see we have closer look into Hashendek, disgruntled bureaucrat that has been lured into our service through false promises of a better life. I mean, we could also have true promises, like we could integrate them as a leader later. That would be something cool to add in, like to have them come in. If you're playing a good empire, so to say, you should have the option of fulfilling these promises. But yeah, false promises of a better life. Maximum infiltration level +5. They have subterfuge operation difficulty, specialty, and government operations. So if you use subterfuge government operations on them, and you have a very easy time. Otherwise, it will be a little harder. Hashendek here specializes in subterfuge and government-related activities, making them especially effective when assigned to the Acquire Asset mission. It turns out that having a bureaucrat able to sift through government records to find other potential marks is incredibly helpful. If complications arise, though, having an expendable lackey around to take the fall for your operatives can also be attractive. While you may lure them into service with promises of support and glory, they're really just pawns in our greater galactic schemes. Often their true fate is to be cleaned up as a loose end to preserve the spy network's infiltration level after an operation completes. Next time, nastier operations, but this time, there has already been so much. What was your favorite thing of this dev diary? Please share it with me. My favorite thing, you might have already heard it, is the smear campaign. Absolutely. That's such a good laugh in multiplayer. Wow. Have a great time until next time, and happy gaming to you. This is Immanuel Can signing out. See you soon, and happy gaming.